a guru plays tribute to a student. Usually it's the other way around. So, what sort of inspired you to want to talk about Irfan, uh, after his recent demise?
Um, well, he happened to be one of my students who kept in touch with me. Uh, he happened to also become a very famous star, which incidentally was not known to me. And I was quite baffled when I saw the response after his death on the television all over. I knew him as a good actor. Most of what I knew of him was his theatre work, which happened very early in his life. I only saw some of his films, bits and pieces, lately. Uh, I think he's an extraordinary actor. When I saw some of the shots of his latest films, what comes out stunningly is his complete confidence. A confidence which is not arrogance, a confidence that is not a show off, a confidence that comes from deep within. And this confidence of Irfan was not built through the silver spoon in his mouth. He wasn't from a great family or something. He was from regional language. He didn't even know English much when he came as a student. He wasn't the greatest good looking guy in the world. And as a student, he was really, really thin and lanky and silly looking. So, in a sense, the confidence of his personality and the confidence of his acting skills, happened together. And this is very significant. The confidence of an actor can't be put on, because an actor has to handle all sorts of people, very big people, very small people, people who are articulate, people who are more famous than you. You will encounter stars who may be stinkingly rich, which he did. So you have to have that inner confidence. Not always does your preparation with the skills lead to inner confidence. I've seen a whole lot of actors who prepare themselves all through their lives. They're excellent as actors, but somehow their inferiority complex never leaves them. It didn't happen with Irfan. Those people who suffer from inferiority complex, in spite of the fact that they've made it, are the ones who behave funny. They shoot off into either one direction or the other direction. There are such people who have made it big, but this man was not like that. This points out to an enormous work that has happened by him on him. You see, which is mostly mechanical, which is mostly skill based, and which is based on the detailing of your own work, of picking up your fault lines and not letting it go. Handle it. These fault lines don't show just like that. It shows when you're trying to perform. It can show when you're rehearsing a play. It can show when you're shooting for a film. And most actors either try to hide those fault lines or in a desperate way try to repair it. The ones who try to repair it in a desperation, they usually end up doing a bit of melodrama. And the ones who try to hide it look mechanical. In case of Irfan, there was no question. There was no father, there was no mother, there was no religion, there was no political backing, nothing. He made himself. So much so that he tried to remove the Khan from out of his name. Because there were too many Khans and the whole system. He said, no, I'm just a human being. Drama school, people came from all sorts of backgrounds. There were people who came from folk theatre. There were people who came from, I had gone from Kanpur IIT, leaving my research and joined the drama school. All sorts of people would be there. And it actually helped. So even in Irfan's batch, there were such.
And what was the Irfan that you remember as the person? You said he was a small towner. So who was this, this small town fellow who had joined NSD, and how was he different from the other students?
See, NSD was like that for a very long time. It was like a bowl in which you put all sorts of things. It wasn't like the universities today, especially the private universities, where it's all homogenized. Every student is from a certain class. Everybody knows a certain amount of English. Everybody knows a certain amount of the popular culture, the films. What impresses me most is the process. Even if you keep the theater part away and take only his life after he went to Bombay and started struggling. He struggled for quite some time, probably for 15 years before he actually started becoming famous. I'm very interested in the process that shaped him.
Where did this process with Irfan begin? Your first memories of Irfan?
You see, that batch happened nearly 10 years after I started directing plays and also taking classes at the National School of Drama. By then, I think that my method had started taking shape. In any class, there are good students, there are mediocre students, there are people who are not so densely interested. This man or this boy was interested. He wouldn't let go. There were a couple of them like that. There was also this girl, Neeta Vasist. There was also a couple of others, that Ashok Lokhande. So it was a very interesting experience to work with them. He also worked with me later. We also did this play called Blue Horses on Red Grass, Lal Ghas Par Neele Ghode, which was a play on Lenin. And it was a very different play from the standard socialist realist plays. And Irfan had done the role of Lenin, and Irfan did not try to look like Lenin. I did not force him to look like Lenin. I didn't ask him to shave his head or to put a wig on his head or even to put a beard. He just looked like what he was. And I said, whatever Lenin has to come out will come out through you. And surprisingly, it happened. Nobody, not one person in the audience complained that Lenin was not looking like Lenin. I think within a couple of minutes, people were looking Lenin in this boy who was anything but Lenin. He was not a boy, he was by then a young man. He was about 28, I think, by the time he did this role. So that's how things shaped. I was shown some of those films which he did very early when he was still in Bombay, and he was doing small things and all that. I saw a couple of films in which he's acted with Om Puri, people like that, and good acting, but it wasn't yet made. There are rough edges. Of course, the rough edge was partly also because the filming technique itself 20, 25 years back was not like what it is now. And then when you move further, you find this confidence building, this naturalness building, and those little things of the eye, or the little smile started showing in Indian cinema. Before that, the little smile would never show. Behavior can be picked up through skill and all that. But to build dramatic action, it needs something more than that. The sort of films which made him popular, The Lunchbox and this, that, and all that, they are very good with behaving. And he's excellent with behaving. But then I think he could also do the other thing, of building dramatic action.
He was the antithesis of the Indian acting style, and yet he found acceptance.
No, he represents the sort of change that is happening in Bollywood cinema. You see, Bollywood cinema was recognized by the stars of cinema who were more of a personality than some of them were good actors also. I'm not saying that, but they all became personalities. People, you recognize that you are Rajesh Khanna or you are Amitabh Bachchan, and then fit the Amitabh Bachchan or the Rajesh Khanna or the Devanand to the role, or Dilip Kumar. But by the time it came to these people, they would see to it that it was not the Irrfan Khan that came out, but the character which came out.
Who were his role models?
I believe Nasir was his role model. Many of his friends have talked about how they used to even joke about, this fellow being completely inspired by Nasir Bhai. It happened to him, the success, late in his life. He had almost given up and then it happened. So he didn't have much leeway. He couldn't have maneuvered a lot. He was not, if he was a star who had become a star when he was 20-year-old or 18-year-old, maybe he could have said, all right, I've had enough, so I can do other things also. So poor fellow didn't have much space there. But he was deeply interested. And that interest was genuinely there. In fact, that is what I think brought him his confidence. Whatever interactions I had with him was strangely with his interest in the social movement that I was doing. See, there was this period of almost 25 years when I got out of theatre. I went and put myself into a village. I went into village development into handlooms and completely involved in it. And he would come once in a while. He came 3-4 times. Once, in fact, it was when we were doing a satyagraha in a dilapidated Gandhian Institute, deep south on the border of Karnataka, really. He and Shutopa came and they stayed with us. And we were staying in a building which was falling down. The tiles were falling down. He just enjoyed himself. He talked a great deal about the satyagraha. He talked about satyagraha not because he was giving a tribute to his guru or something. I've never behaved like a guru. So we were talking and he was getting things out of me. Not in a selfish way, but just as the curiosity of any living being. They were one of those successful marriages in Bombay. There are more unsuccessful marriages in Bollywood or Hollywood or wherever than successful marriages. These places are famous for 3 marriages, 4 marriages, 10 marriages. They almost wear it on their sleeves proudly. But Shutopa and Irrfan were a good match. Shutopa was more intellectually tuned to begin with. Irrfan was more of an actor. They belonged to different religions. They met up and decided to become a couple very early in their lives. They were just students of drama in the school, not even in the final year, probably in the first year or something. And it survived, and survived it well. So I'm sure both of them have put in a lot of effort to make it survive. Because, in that sort of situations, the survival of marriage is not just a personal effort. There's so much of pressure from the medium itself. I remember Irrfan saying that whenever he went on a long stretch of shootings, he would get his family to wherever he was shooting for those last couple of weeks so that they could stay together. So people have done all sorts of things in order to make the other world work. One of the last conversations I had with Irrfan was a very moving conversation. He was by then in the last phases of his cancer treatment, and he knew that he wouldn't last. But he was very confident. And one of the things he said is, "Sir, I know, like most people, have committed silly things in terms of personal life, because we all get so busy and so involved in our public life, in becoming stars or whatever. But now in the last 1 year, I realize how important it is, the inner life." And so he said, I've started giving a lot of time and enjoying my relationship with my wife, with my children and all that. When he talks something, he's not pretending to talk. And so most often it works. It works simply because he is saying what he wants to say. This is so difficult when you become famous. When you become famous, you start measuring every word, every action, and trying to understand at that point when this is happening, whether it will go with the Narendra Modi government or with the other government or with this he didn't do that. And he never actually put his foot into his mouth either, So that was something which I liked. Irrfan has a lot to tell the young actors. The young actors should study in Irrfan how to become a natural human being. You see, he first becomes a natural human being and then goes in front of the camera. He's putting, to take a slightly crude metaphor, he will eat up all that you have fed him, the script or the films, whatever, digest it, become healthy, and then go in front of the camera. So in front of the camera, what is being seen is the actual Irrfan as the character. So this is the opposite of the star system, where every time you are seeing Amitabh Bachchan or Dharmendra or Hema Malini, here it's the other thing. So I think actors should find that, or young people should find that, rather than find, quickie things to draw from his acting to be included in their desperate need to become film stars or whatever. No. You have to slog. You have to understand life. You have to meet people on one-to-one terms. You have to feel insulted. You have to get hurt. You have to get thrown out of, some silly, pompous director's chambers, which I believe it happened to Irrfan for many, many years. He was just an actor. Look at this silly thing. If you're a good actor, you're just an actor. That's the world today. In that world, just an actor to be revered by such a huge population, when this just an actor dies, that's the thing about